Hello and welcome to HNB Conversations with Cosmo and Rivka.
Hey, everybody.
Yep.
Wow, that was good.
Thank you.
You nailed it.
I did.
All right. Hey, everybody. Well,
know.
it's apparently, it's Friday for us, so this is being released on Sunday, but today we just found out is
National Hydration Day. So happy National Hydration Day.
2 days late for everyone, or later.
Make sure to stay hydrated. Like I need to be right now because I feel like I'm going to cough. Thank you. My voice is kind of
Raspy?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, stay hydrated. Drink half your body weight in ounces. You'll stay low on inflammation, and you'll be removing all the toxins. You're going to feel better. You're going to sleep better.
It's like
your skin's going to be better.
It's like oil in the joints.
Yeah.
It's like oil in your car.
I've asked people before, they have headaches or they're not feeling well or whatever, and I'm like, are you hydrated? And they're like, yeah, I had like a glass of water today, or even if they're like, I had like 2 or 3 glasses of water, I'm like, no, dude, you're dehydrated.
Right.
Like that. And I explain to people, hydration is so important. It is the very first thing they do to you when you go into the hospital. They attach you to a saline and they make sure you're fully hydrated, and only then do they begin to assess you, because a lot of stuff can be solved just through hydration.
Yeah, when I was getting healthy several years ago, I actually found that hydration was actually key to not only making all of my organs work better. I lost weight faster because I was well hydrated.
Right.
And
your body wasn't like, we're dying.
And your exercise becomes less painful.
Right, because there's no toxins in your muscles.
Because it's washing it out. And it's keeping you sort of the fluid in there. You're not getting the same kind of pain in the joints and muscles and things like that. So, happy National Hydration Day. Hold on here. Hold on. The more you know. Okay, see.
Well, that's great. All right, so now I'm going to give the hello of the week.
Oh, yes.
Which should we have this like, should this be like what name should this have? Like, should it be like, I don't know. That's stupid. Okay.
The greeting?
The greeting.
I mean, I don't understand.
No, it's okay.
Segment. We have a segment.
No, I don't know. Never mind. It's okay. All right. So the word of the day, or not the word of the day, the greeting of the week.
Okay.
The greeting of the week. We had our women's support group last night, and I was talking with 2 of my friends, and we were talking about how to say hello basically in Arabic, or at least with Muslims or whatever. So I decided to do that today. However, when I looked it up, that was not the greeting, which I found somewhat surprising.
What's the traditional greeting?
The traditional greeting would be salam alaikum.
Salam alaikum.
Salam alaikum, right?
Peace, my friend.
Yeah, right. And then you would come in, and I don't remember this, so I'm not going to butcher it, but Elizabeth knew how to say in return what you say, because she finds it awkward, and I'm not trying to embarrass Elizabeth here. I think this is legitimately, if you see it from an outside perspective, she thinks it's awkward when people walk into a room and either they don't say anything or they just go, hello, and people don't typically go hello back. Like, it's a weird greeting, or they go, hi. And it's awkward. She finds, instead of where you have in Middle Eastern cultures or African cultures, people walk in and there's like an acknowledgement, a greeting, and a welcome, like all at the same time. So anyways, I looked it up and, excuse me.
I just do a head nod and be like, sup.
Yeah, we talked about the head nod. We talked about how lazy the culture has become, where we don't even use language anymore. It's just a head nod to everyone.
Or a gentle smile of acknowledgement with a nodding of your head, like
yeah. Or if you're a child, that's called gas. Like, you just don't.
What? An infant, a child. You're talking about an infant. Like,
I don't
5-year-olds aren't like.
5-year-olds are also not walking in and nodding with a smile.
Okay.
Anyway, so the word in Arabic is murhaba. Murhaban. There was the N. Murhaban. And so where to say this, where to give this greeting, there are many dialects of Arabic throughout North Africa and the Middle East. Say hello in this Arabic language, you would say hello in Algeria, Bahrain, Chad, Egypt, Eurasia. I don't know how to say that nation. I'm very sorry. Iraq, Israel, Jordan, Kuwait, Lebanon, Libya, Morocco, Oman, Palestine, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Somalia, the Sudan, Syria, Tunisia, the United States, the United Emirates.
Arab Emirates.
Thank you. United Arab Emirates, the Western Sahara, and Yemen. So that's
the 1040
significant.
window.
Yeah, that's significant for that to be how you greet someone and how you say hello. And I lived over there, and I don't ever remember hearing this greeting as well. So I think that's interesting that this is how you say hello. Probably someone will be able to tell us. Maybe that's a certain way you greet certain people or something. Because in different languages,
So say it again.
you can use different greetings. It's murhaban.
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 Murhaban. Murhaban.
Murhaban.
Okay.
Yeah. And of course, we're doing the best we can.
Yeah.
We're not Arabic speakers, which is an incredibly beautiful language.
Yeah.
And the writing is stunning. Arabic is just, I mean, like when you look at it, it looks like art.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
just
for sure.
art.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
okay, yeah. So, that only took, what, 20 minutes?
Antonio, let's spin that wheel.
So, okay, the first question is, when was the moment in your life where you laughed the hardest? So, take
We're
some
getting
time.
these questions that are like,
Man.
when's
When's
what?
the moment in our lives when we laughed the hardest?
Not an easy question. Gonna take some thought.
Not
Probably.
together, but like individually.
I don't know.
I know that I have never laughed so hard as when I have been with Mandy. When I'm with my my girlfriend Mandy in Missouri, like there have been times we have laughed so hard, just all kinds of stuff that would come up. Like when we hang out, especially years ago when we lived there and stuff, or even when we visited and we go visit places like Silver Dollar City, there's just always these things, and we really laugh so hard.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. The times I can remember laughing where I can't contain myself we're often just late at night and where I'm kind of slap happy a little bit, and so everything's making me laugh.
Right.
I do have this memory of that came to mind where when I was in college, that I was on this ministry drama team, and so we would I was new to the team, so everybody else was on the team. They'd been there, and so we were in our preparation for our summer tour, and because we would go each week, we were in a different place, different camp, and yada yada yada. So there was this skit that we did, and my friend Doug, every time he would look at me, the way he would look, he would give this face, and I would just, in practice, it would make me laugh. But I thought I need to hold it in. Well, what ended up happening was the very first performance, the first time I'm ever doing drama publicly, and we're doing this skit, and all of a sudden, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it, and I had gotten it down in practice, and then Doug looked over at me, and the way he gave the look, I just lost it, and I'm in front of a whole crowd, and I can't contain myself. Mm-hmm. And so then I feel so stupid for laughing, and then the whole team is laughing except our director.
Right.
He's sitting in the front row,
like straight
face, shooting. Like, this is a funny skit anyway.
But you were not serious people.
No, we're not serious people. And Doug and I would make each other laugh all the time. We used to joke that we just needed to walk around with a recorded sound laugh track for ourselves. So that I would laugh a lot. But I generally, I don't know. I usually, I'm trying to think. I can't think at the moment beyond that when I couldn't get it back, other than, other than because I'm still like a 12-year-old on some levels. That I remember being in a service when I was like 17, and something was happening, and this guy behind me just ripped one loud, and I just could not. Oh, well, I could not recover.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I just thought of another story.
I know. I see it all over your face. Like we could go from story after story.
Oh.
Go ahead, share your next story.
Well, okay, because I don't think. See, once I tell this story, I don't think the people that are in this story would listen to the podcast.
Well, also, you don't have to actually use names.
No, that's true.
So nobody knows who you're talking
But
about.
if the people that were there,
I think that's really shooting high.
They
if those
wouldn't. They
people
don't
are
listen.
actually listening
they're
to
not
our
listening.
podcast.
Right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I just don't think that.
So
would
that's
happen.
why I had to think about that, because it was such a unique event that they would know exactly what I'm talking about. So.
Yeah, I don't think people are thinking about us that much. They're like,
Agreed.
let's listen to their podcast.
So we were on staff at a church, and it was a larger church, and my brother-in-law was on staff with us too. We were the youth pastors there. And so one day after service on a Sunday, there was a couple that were having an anniversary celebration.
Oh, I didn't think you were going to tell this story.
What?
I think most people have heard this story.
No, I don't think so. Only people that I have not shared on the podcast.
Everybody has heard this story. And no, but I thought you were going to tell the story about your church when you were
Pastor
teenage.
Mike?
Yeah, and what he was saying from
Oh,
the
yeah.
pulpit.
Well, I'll do that. So
Okay, I'm going to get popcorn and just sit back. Go ahead.
Okay. So Pastor Mike was my pastor from the time I was 11 till I was in college, and so one day he's preaching, he would get going, and he's preaching out of Ephesians, and he's saying, and he talking about the fiery darts of the devil. And he starts doing this repetitive thing. He goes, we got to avoid the fiery darts of the devil. We got to avoid the fiery darts of the devil. We got to avoid the fiery farts of the devil. We got to avoid it. And I lost it, man. And it was funny, on the platform, his wife and his sister-in-law were both on the platform sitting on these chairs in the back because they were on the worship team, and they had sat down. And their heads simultaneously dropped, and they were just like trying to contain themselves.
Unable to contain themselves.
Yeah, their shoulders are moving.
Right. And you couldn't.
And I remember later having a conversation, like there was like being, I was a teenager at the time, but being in conversation, he was like, and he heard himself, but he powered through because he was like, if I stop, I'd lose the rest of the service. So I had to just power through. So that happened. And
you could never do that. If you,
I would acknowledge it.
You would absolutely.
I would.
You would stop everything and be like, okay. We got to acknowledge
the elephant in the room.
Like just what happened here.
I feel mocked right now.
What?
Yeah, that was. It's okay.
When you talk about people, you change your countenance or whatever you're talking about them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's just you're right. No, you nailed it. That's characteristic of what I would do. So anyway,
that's impersonating. Okay, that's not mocking.
Okay, so let me paint this other picture. So we're on staff, and after service, this couple, and they had a girl, not a little girl. They had a daughter in our youth group, and so they were having a special anniversary celebration. And so I had to be there, and all the staff members had to be there. Now, Riv didn't have to be there; she got to go home, which lucky for her. And
I had small kids.
Yeah, we had little ones.
So woohoo!
So we're sitting in this, and it's in a small room. There's probably 35 people in there. We're at round tables, and I happen to be facing them, and like they get up to share, and they're talking, and they said, and it's a little. I mean, they seemed older to me. They're probably our age, right?
Yeah.
So they're probably in their late 40s, early 50s at the time. But I wasn't. I was probably 26, 27. And so they get up.
It's relevant to
I don't, and that's why I'm powering through. I always get hung up on these little details. Anyway, they get up and they said, one of the things that we do as we celebrate our anniversary, one of the things that we do regularly is that we responsively read Song of Solomon to each other, and I was
You're
like,
sitting there with your brother-in-law.
I'm sitting next to my brother-in-law, which and Jonathan, my brother-in-law, he'll do these things where he's like,
He's straight-faced,
He's straight-faced, like,
sarcastically,
like it's-
mocking you.
But and so I can't ever tell if he's mocking me or serious when he does the hmms. But anyway, so
that's where my
and then
comes from.
and so then another staff pastor is sitting across from me, but his back is to them, so he doesn't have to look at them, but I'm right in front of them, looking right at them, and it's hard for me to let me see if I can describe it. They're standing next to each other, their arms, not just their arms around each other's backs, but like both arms, like his arms around her waist sideways and her arms around his, like,
I think that's sweet.
right. So they're in a full side embrace.
Sure.
Sideways.
So who's holding the Bible?
It's on a
like a pulpit?
a podium in front of them, and they've sideways embracing each other in a full embrace, but facing us all, and they begin to responsively read, to go back and forth reading portions of Song of Solomon, which can be very uncomfortable.
Sure.
It seems like something that's fine for them to do.
Also, interpretation will vary because, I mean, it's real poetry.
Sure. I'll say that I don't really talk about Song of Solomon so often. It's beautiful, and I love that it's there. It's just not one of those
right.
passages.
So, anyways, so you were listening.
Oh, so I'm listening, and they're reading it, but I'm facing them, and I am having to use all the self-control I can.
And Jonathan's
muster.
pretending to be
And
so
he's like,
serious.
And Nathan, this other staff pastor, is across from me, and he's like making these faces, like eyes raised, and and
Like,
I'm
that's nice.
and I am just like where I would put my head, I'd like nod, and I'm holding it, and I put my head down, and I'm like, and sometimes like a snort would come out, where I'm like 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 I couldn't, and
it went on a long time.
They read the whole book.
They read the whole book?
I
You
think
all had to sit there through the entire book?
it's not that long of a book. Maybe it wasn't the whole book.
It's a
it
long
was
book
long,
when
though.
you're
It was long. Maybe
role-playing.
it was an excerpt, but it felt like the whole book.
Yeah, I think it would be long.
And
a long
I
time to
laughed.
ask, like,
I laughed really
everybody
hard.
here.
So there you go. So I laughed, and then once there was something that happened where that was a comical moment in the room that had nothing to do with them reading it, and there was laughter in the room, and I was able to just roar. I probably laughed a lot harder than the moment it required, because I had to let all of this pent up laughter out. So that's what happened there. So it was just awkward,
Yeah,
and I laughed.
there you go.
Okay, what about you? You got anything that gave you time?
No, I knew for me my story early on, but I was just waiting for you to get through your 62 stories so that I can actually tell a story. But I don't need to tell a story now. I feel like we really focused a lot
No,
on
tell
that.
the story. I want to hear it. Come on, everyone. Now you've said it, and everyone wants to hear your story because they get to hear me all the time, and
I know. They're so lucky.
Aren't you lucky though? You get to hear me even more.
I am so blessed. Hashtag blessed. Okay. So I was with my girlfriend Mandy. There's lots of stories that I mean, when I was in high school, I'd be sitting with my girlfriend Veronica, and we would be listening, and we'd be in math, and both of us were terrible at math, so we would just be cutting up in the back. And when you're a kid and you start cutting up, then you can't stop, and then you can't stop laughing, and you don't even know why you're laughing, but you can't stop. But I would say, though, as an adult, the one thing that comes to mind, I don't even know if I don't know how this will translate in this manner, because nobody knows my girlfriend and they weren't there. And anyway, so we were at Silver Dollar City. So Silver Dollar City is like this amusement park. It's a really, it's a Midwest Christian type amusement park. Anyways, so we go there, and she and I went, and we brought our kids, and Cosmo was there, and it was fun. And like I said, like we laugh a lot, and we enjoy each other's company. There's no superficiality. We're just who we are, and it's really relaxed and really easy. And so we went, and I had seen these dresses, and I said, oh, I want to go buy these dresses, because they were in like one of these boutiques. And so we went in there. Now, Mandy is not that much older than me. I'm turning 50. I think she's only like 3 or 4, maybe 4 years max. Maybe
yeah.
max older than me. Excuse me.
You can stop that.
I'm trying.
Just kidding.
So annoying. Anyway, she's not that much older than me, and she likes her hair short. So I don't know. Like, to me, I find her, she's her, and I'm just me. So we go, and we go up to the counter, and I bring my dresses that I want to bring, and I'm standing there, and we're standing there next to each other, and we're kind of talking, and and everything, and the lady comes over, and she's like, are you buying these dresses? And we're like, yeah, whatever. And she looks at us and she goes, are you guys having like a mother-daughter day out? and I have this horrible habit. First of all, when I'm uncomfortable, I start to laugh. And then when I feel like when something like terrible has happened to the person next to me, I feel so bad, but I can't help but bust up laughing. And so she looks at us and she goes, are you having a mother-daughter day out? And I look at Mandy.
You look up at Mandy because she's taller.
Because she's taller than me. I look at Mandy, and Mandy looks at me, and I fall to the floor. I'm laughing so hard, and Mandy's laughing, and we can't stop laughing. And then we felt so bad for the cashier person, because there was no words. We just laughed so hard, and I kept going, thanks, Mom, for the dresses, and she was like, I can't, like, what? And so we actually like, how old do I look? And I'm like, you don't look old to me. I'm like, do I look like a child? Like, why in the world would they think we were mother and daughter? But we could not stop laughing, and it was so funny that to this day I'll be like, hey, Mom.
yeah, and the thing is, and you laugh well. You have a great laugh, and you laugh easily. Like, you laugh a lot. Like, when we put on, like, America's Funniest Home Videos.
Yeah, I'm very much into physical humor, like slapstick.
Like you can watch. She can watch. Like, if they show the montage of people falling down.
Yeah.
She cannot recover.
So, like, if I have TikTok, I only like the funny ones, or the ones where people scare each other.
Yeah.
Because I want to laugh. So I can watch, that's all I'm getting, and I'm laughing so hard. And I can watch the same one over and over and over again of the person falling down. And every time I see it, I recognize a new face expression on the person, or a new way the person tripped. And it's fun to laugh.
So if I fall,
yeah,
her first reaction is not, are you okay? Her first reaction is
double
to
over
roar
and I point. I'm just
in laughter.
dude, I cannot help it. It's not great, but
and I just never was.
You've offered me throughout the 25 years we've been married ample opportunity to laugh. I want to thank you for that. Thank you.
I do tend to be clumsy. Like, I remember, when I was little, in elementary school, we would I don't know how often, because I was little, so I don't remember, but every 6 weeks or so, they would show like a movie in the library where we would all sit and they would show like a Disney movie, Lady and the Tramp or whatever, Mm-hmm. Condor Man was awesome. I recommend Condor Man to everybody.
I do not.
It's so good.
Do not listen
classic.
to him.
I loved it so much.
Do not waste your time.
It's so good.
It's like watching the Muppets try to pretend they're human.
What are you talking about?
No, just don't do it. Go ahead.
It's
you
a
can
spy
go.
flick.
Okay.
Anyway, but all the kids would be like they would fall. All my peers, like someone would fall or something would happen, and I never laughed easily. I would inside laugh, but I just never roared with laughter. Everyone around me would just be like laughing, and I would kind of be smiling and just kind of looking. And it's not that I was like this overly serious person. I just didn't laugh easily. But you laugh. You're one of those that you can watch minutes of people getting, kicked or,
Well, like one of my favorite movies is oh my gosh, Nacho Libre. And I can watch that over and over again.
Oh, well, that's different.
And I laugh every time.
Well, I can laugh at that because that's
Okay, but that's how I
satire.
see life. I see all of life to me is one great big satire.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, Tonio, next question. Hopefully this one's not so much just about us.
Next question is a bit of a long one. It's a two-parter. First, in the absence of a clear calling / direction from God, is relocating my family 1,000 miles away for a better life wrong? Specifically, if it takes my wife away from her closest family members, her parents. And second, am I wrong to prioritize my immediate family over my extended family?
Okay. So that is a long question.
Yes.
And give me the first part again.
In the absence of a clear calling / direction from God, is relocating my family 1,000 miles away for a better life wrong? Specifically, if it takes my wife away from her closest family members, her parents.
Whether a question of, I think, a right and wrong answer.
I don't think it's right or wrong.
Because I think context, even greater context, always provides.
Sure. It would depend upon the relationship between, he said his wife, I guess it's a guy who's talking. I think that as long as your wife is in agreement, you're not taking her away from her family. You have both agreed that you both have a piece about this, and this is what you want to do. Right. Then, yeah, but I would not appreciate it if my husband took me away from my family unless I was like, this is what I feel like we're also supposed to do.
Yeah, we walk in
That's
tandem.
a marriage thing. That's a partnership, an understanding, like your friends, your teammates, your mother, father, your husband, wife. So one person should not ever take necessarily.
Yeah, and especially in the absence of a clear calling, well, then the first thing that you want to do is then the reasoning here isn't, hey, this is something the Lord has told us to do, we need to do it, right? So number one is the rationale is not that. So you really need to be in unity.
Yeah.
And so your first job is to understand your wife and to meet her where she's at.
Scripture, scripture reference.
First Peter, he says, in 1 Peter 3, he says, husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way. And so your job is to come to her in a place of understanding and in a place of consideration. And as being Yeshua to your wife, to see that where she's at. If this is a place where a situation that would cause her unnecessarily great emotional distress,
it's only going to cause you distress in the end,
so,
because if some women don't need to be near family or whatever, it depends on how many kids you have. It depends on, what works for you. Maybe you don't have a good relationship with your family. Maybe it's toxic and abusive. And in that regard, your wife leaving, it will benefit her, and she'll be able to be who she's supposed to be to her children, to her husband, to people. But if this is something that's going to cause her distress or cause her stress, like all of that will eventually, make its way into your marriage. So it doesn't benefit you in any way. In a way that's meaningful as far for you to put your wife in this position. However, if this is something she wants, and this is something she feels like is important, if it's a financial reason and it's a responsible thing to do because you're struggling or whatever, I don't think it's unreasonable to take your family and move. If you don't have to and you're doing it just for the sake of doing it, well, that's not Christ-likeness. That's not kindness. That's not considering anyone else other than yourself and what you want to do. But when you're in unity with your spouse and you're in agreement, and this is something my husband typically, for a lot of our marriage, not now, but for a lot of our marriage, he thought he was talking to me about something when he was actually talking at me. We would sit down and he would say, okay, so this is what I want us to do, and this is what we're going to do, and so this is how I've looked at things, and so this is how we're going to do this, and this is how we're going to do that. From his perspective, perspective, he was having a conversation with me. I didn't feel like we were having conversations. I didn't feel like I had much of a choice. Not that that even bothered me at the time. But he was telling me what we were going to do. He wasn't asking me how I felt about it.
Yeah, in my mind, I was like, I was opening up conversation. I figured if there
Right.
was something that you weren't in line with, that you would kind of volley back at me.
Sure, but that's putting me in the position to always have to be pushing back.
Right, rather than me
instead
correct,
of-
rather than me saying, "How do you feel about
Right,
this?"
and
What do you
some
think?
women
What
don't
are
want
your
to have to
thoughts?
push back. We want to be considered. Well, we want to be equals with our husbands, and in that way, emotionally, we're equals. I'm not going to just disregard how you feel and what you need, and I'm always going to be trying to do what's in your best interest, and so that kind of love should go both ways.
Right, not to be like, I'm going to go forward unless you protest, putting someone in the position to only have to protest. You ask.
Right, because then it gives a wife an opportunity to truly share her heart without feel like she's having to debate or argue with someone.
Right.
That's really hard to do.
Right, to say, this is something I want us to talk about, and I want to know I genuinely want to know how you feel about like how this would affect you. Let genuine selfless love be what's driving and motivating
Right.
you. Selfless love for your wife, that empties. That's not you first.
It's
but
the dying to self. It's the Christ-like kind of love that the Lord mandates to husbands to show their wives.
Right.
That's what they receive from the Lord.
So if you would receive making a move, some financial benefit, but it would hurt your wife in the process, then
And
you
she may
lay
not
that-
even, right, there might not even been at this present time the understanding of that this will hurt the relationship or this will affect them in any way. I don't think I had that level of self-awareness, but also nobody processed with me. Nobody processed that with me for me to even know how I felt about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And the other thing, the thing I would say is this, because, it opened up with this question about right and wrong. And really the question of right and wrong, it can only be answered genuinely by taking a genuine look at your own motivations, the posture of your heart. If there are sort of selfish, disregarding attitudes that are driving this, like, I don't really care, and is it wrong for me? I mean, whether her family likes it or not, whether she likes it or not, this is what's best, and I don't really care, and there's a total disregard. Well, that attitude itself would be wrong. The act of moving away, and the cough was loud. Oh.
I'm so sorry. I'm trying.
Sorry.
You can cut that out.
The act of moving away in itself is not wrong, but the it all depends on the driving attitude and point of consideration.
And I would also say that it's unfortunate if a husband, I believe that God wants families to be together. It's a new thing where we can all leave each other. Mm-hmm. Where, let's get married and let's go here, or let's get married and let's go there, and families separate. Historically, communities need one another, families need one another. You have the tribes of Israel. These are different families that have grown, but they're still together, and they help each other. There's something to be learned from the older generation, and eventually you're going to be the older generation, and you're going to want your children to take the wisdom that you have learned throughout your lifetime. It's unfortunate when we're like, each one of us thinks of ourselves as an island, and this is my life, and this is what I can do, what I want to do. That's not actually a biblical concept or principle or anything like that. Mm-hmm. We're always supposed to be looking to serve and love one another and have unity together. Of course, there are the exceptions, but God's perfect plan for us is not that we should be divided and individualistic in that way, but be there for one another. And so I would also then, like, for my husband and for me, my husband's family became my family, and my family became his family.
Correct.
We didn't visualize or say things like, taking someone away from the family. Like, there should be a look of, or a feeling of love. Like, this is also your family.
Yeah.
Because your children, this is also your children's family.
One of the things that we've always generally done is, Rivka was always considering my family, like when we would be looking at getting a house or whatever, because the call of the Lord did take us away from my family,
Yeah.
From my family of origin. But she would always be like, well, there needs to be a place for your mom and dad when they come and when they move here, or if they visit, that there's a place for them, that there was always that point of consideration. So she was
always
considering
honored
my
your mother.
family, and then I was always generally considering her family. And
yeah, unless there are circumstances where things become toxic or abusive or something like that, I believe God's plan is, or desire, not plan. I mean, sure, you can go, but his desire is for that we to learn how to love one another the way he calls us to love one another. So I would say that, like, to also love your wife's family, and but I think that if they're in agreement, this is what they want to do, and they're both like, this is a desire that they both have, then I don't, if that's, I mean, people are going to do what people are going to do, and there's nothing wrong with that necessarily. What was the other part?
The second question had to do with, is it wrong to prioritize your immediate family over your extended family, right? That's it. And so again, or I don't know if you use the word wrong or not. Is it wrong?
Am I wrong?
Am I wrong to prioritize my immediate family? Well, again, the starting point is prioritizing your wife.
Right.
So that's by prioritizing your immediate family is starting with her. And it comes back to what we were saying at the meeting.
Right.
So no, it's actually right to put her
wife
first,
right.
and to walk in unity together, and to say, hey, that we've got to do. This is who God has entrusted.
My wife
and my children have been entrusted to my care. But within that consideration of my wife and her relationship with her family, her need for that, is making her a priority rather than making me a priority. The thing I have to be careful.
Is this about you, or is this about, like, truly, is this about what you want to do, or is this about what is best for your family?
Right. Because to me, it's my wife's family is my family.
Right.
Like, they're my extended family.
You're never, no matter how much a culture tries, you're never marrying just the person.
Right.
You are marrying into a family.
Right.
And that family becomes a part. You're never just this island. Are you your own unit? Yes. But you're also a part of a greater community. You're a part of a tribe. Right. You've entered into a tribe, and there's a union, there's a joining. When you become one, you're not getting rid of what you had.
Right.
You are becoming more.
Right. And so that's where, the scripture says, for this reason, a man shall leave his mother and father and cleave to his wife. But that focus on your being separated unto your wife and
honoring your wife
and honoring her in that way, walking in unity.
Like, if a husband and a wife gets married and a husband just only continues to honor his mother, there's problems there. Mm-hmm. But if you honored your mother and father and you love your extended families, but you're honoring now your wife, you're treating your wife that way, you are cleaving to your wife. You have left your mother and father, and you are cleaving to your wife. That doesn't mean that gives license to just be like, we're out of here. That's not what that's saying.
Right. And leadership is not dominance. And that's I think, a lot of times within...
Or dictatorship.
Right. I think a lot of times within, historically within different church cultures or religious cultures, it has equated leadership and family leadership with a domination and a dominance that does
they always say the man's up here and the woman's here, right, and then the children.
Right, but so one of the ways that I look at it is that well, I'm the head. Yes, okay, I'm the head of my family. So if you think about this, my head is very much concerned with how the rest of my body feels.
Right, and if you
all the pain in my body, right, is processed through my head.
If you don't take care of the rest of your body,
right,
better than you take care of your head's
right,
going to die.
Right. So my head, and so the job of the head is to be considering and concerned about the rest of the body, mm-hmm, not to simply like if something, okay, so if you're playing sports, right, and there's pain in part of your body, there's an injury there, and you go, I'm going to power through this. Okay, you may decide to power through and disregard the pain, but what will happen was you can go from having pain to having an injury to having a disability.
Broken.
To being completely broken if you keep disregarding the pain of the body or the consideration of the body.
Body's needs.
The body's giving signals about I need rest or I need this. And so the job of the head is to oversee and to be in full consideration of that. So this idea that, well, I'm the man and I'm gonna just,
The whole king of the castle idea came from England when there were monarchs, and the monarchs would say, just as a king is, I think it was King James, just as a king is, so should a man be in his home. He should be the king of his own castle, kind of a thing. However, kings were dictators. Kings were rulers. It's a fable, a myth of King Arthur. Like, he didn't actually exist with his round table and all of that. And most kings historically, I mean, there's a lot of havoc that's going on. That's why we don't have kings right now. So that was something that man said to man, and man was like, oh, that's a good, yeah, absolutely, and kind of ran with it. I also would address that there are so many individuals out there that will say something like, well, when the garden fell, when Adam and Eve fell, it says that, he will rule over her. So that's the curse. And as believers, we want to say about so many things, well, we don't live under the curse. We're no longer under the curse. So how come we're not under the curse in all these ways, except for in that one thing there, we're going to say we're going to live under the curse.
Right.
Where man will rule over her and she will pine after him. That's not God's will, God's plan. That's a consequence of sin. And once we are renewed and we are saved and operating in a way that is not in a selfish, fleshly way, but a Christ-like, holy way, then you're not to rule over her, and she shouldn't have to pine after you.
Right. You're supposed to be live with her in an understanding way,
right,
and lead her.
If you are living with your wife in an understanding way and you're meeting her needs and you're loving her, she will do anything for you. Anything. I mean, that's just how it works. But a lot of times people expect the submission first and the dictatorship, or not dictatorship, the submission first, and then a husband will be what a husband can be or should be and all of that. And that's absolutely upside down and doesn't work in anything or any business or church or business or government or anything. It's the leadership has to reflect down what they are wanting to produce in their employees or whatever. It doesn't ever work the other way. So it's not going to work that way in a relationship.
Right. Here's what I could even go back to. Even, you said the thing about the husband being the king of his castle. And I think about that, and it's so deeply embedded into our thought process.
Our DNA.
So, but here's the thing. So there are two different kinds of kings and kingdoms. And the kingdoms of this world are characterized by there's a dictatorship where there's dominance and it's self-centered. Mm-hmm. It's where when kings are not concerned with their people, mm-hmm. right? That eventually,
or dictators or
because
anybody,
kings are actually God's plan when God allowed kings to be kings. Though he wanted to be the king of Israel.
Right.
But when Israel decided to be a king, the job of the king was actually to be a shepherd. He was entrusted with shepherding the people. And so he was actually to be concerned about. So when you read what Psalm 72 says about kings, about it paints the picture of the ideal king. It's what David prays, that my son Solomon would be the ideal king. And as you're reading Psalm 72, you can't really tell the difference. You're like, is he describing God or is he describing Solomon here? And the issue is he's describing what Solomon should be a king like. Should be a king that's like God. And there's this passage in Jeremiah where the Lord says, he comes to the people and says, or he sends this rebuke and says, do you think being king was for you to like expand to, you think that it's all about building bigger rooms for yourself, about building,
being the man,
being
no, the
it's
wealthiest,
actually
being
learn from your father Josiah, it says, and go back and understand,
be better.
Correct. And so that's here. It's Jeremiah chapter 22. Verse 13, woe to him who builds his house by unrighteousness and his roof chambers by injustice, that makes his neighbor work without pay, never giving him his wages. Verse 15 here, do you become king just to be striving with cedar? Did your father not eat and drink and do justice and righteousness? Speaking of Josiah, then it went well with him. He pled the case of the poor and the weak, so it went well. Is not this what it is to know me, declares the Lord? But your eyes and your heart are only on your unjust gain. So here's the point. The point is, if you think being king is about getting your way, I'm king of my castle, so everyone should be serving me.
I should come home. She should have dinner ready.
Wrong.
She should be. In the 50s, the things women were telling women were so suppressive.
To be the king is to be like the king. And Yeshua, who is the King of Kings, says, you have heard that it was said this, but I tell you. And he says, and so he knew that he had all power. All power had been given to him, John chapter 13. And so what did he do? He took off his outer garment. He knelt down. He washed his disciples' feet. And he says, now you do what I've done. To be like Yeshua, to be a king, to be a husband who loves his wife as Messiah loved the church and gave himself for her, gave up himself for her, laid down his desires,
not
his
just
life
once,
for
but
her.
Yeah.
Right?
Like it's not a one-time thing. Like
so to
people will think
lead is to lead by serving, by laying your life down, not by demanding your rights, not by us going, hey, whatever happened to a man being the king of his castle? Well, take care of your castle.
Yeah, and the dying to self, that whole thing,
not
like
the building, the people, the people are the building.
Right, but the dying to self and the like the laying down your life, that doesn't mean being willing to step in front of a bullet. What it means is every time you desire to put your will first before your wife, before anyone, honestly, unless it's, but you need to be kind. You need to exhibit the fruit of the Spirit, which is gentleness and kindness and all of those things. You need to operate in that way. And then you are becoming like the Lord. How the Lord loves us is how we're supposed to love each other. Right. And it seems to be something that we are so happy to receive forgiveness and receive grace and receive compassion and gentleness from the Lord, and he's there for us and anytime or whatever, until it's then required of us.
Yeah, and so here's my recommendation, and I obviously I speak as one who is still very much in process.
Always, we were always in process.
There's so much of in my flesh, in my nature, so much is so deeply embedded that dying to self is not a natural thing.
No, it's not called dying for nothing. It's terrible.
Thing.
It's brutal. It's difficult. It's not easy.
To sit down with your wife and to say, I want us together to make a decision about what's best for our family. And I want to really genuinely know. I want you to feel free, because some wives don't feel free. Like what would happen?
Husbands have to give permission to get honesty from their wives.
What I would unknowingly do, and what I probably still sometimes unknowingly do, there are times where I already think I know the right thing. So I go into a sales job. I'm so intent on this is the way to go. This is the best decision that I will I'm like, okay, even if I'll say, hey, I want to talk, but let's talk about this, but I already know what I want to do. I'm not truly listening and hearing.
You're petitioning.
I'm coming back though with every I'll be
right.
Like, well,
so as soon as I would begin to share, well, this is why I want to do that, you would just combat it with why we shouldn't do it that way.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, but here's the thing that
right. And instead of actually listening to why I feel that way and taking that into consideration, regardless of the facts.
Right. So what you learned relationally over a period of time was, yeah, you say you want to hear what I have to say, but when I say what I have to say, by the end of the conversation, we're still actually doing exactly what you wanted to do in the first place. And so it ends up being a moot point. And so this is just a charade of me giving you the idea that you're
I want you
participating
to
in the
feel like
decision,
I'm asking you
but
and
I'm
I care, but I actually don't.
Yeah.
I'm going to do what I want at the end of the day
Watch out for the
anyway.
temptation, the internal temptation, because we all naturally so want our way. Be aware of that reality. We're all so convinced we're right. If we didn't think we were right, we would think we were wrong. So when we're so convinced, we're so confident of our rightness that we're going to power through, we're going to bulldoze through. And depending, again, on the temperament of your wife and your temperament, if you're a powerhouse and she's not, it may be easy to really power through. So
Likelihood is if your wife's a powerhouse, you know what she's thinking. It's just
Correct.
fighting.
but you're a powerhouse, and I still at times I think you're
Right,
you're
but I get
strong.
tired of fighting.
Right.
So eventually I'll just be like, okay, fine. You know?
So that would be my so you want to love first and love selflessly and genuinely. So the question you have to ask is she more important right now than what you want? Are you willing to choose her over you?
And her needs over your needs.
Are you going to have this conversation that truly gives her, if she says, I really want to stay close to my family, are you willing to say, well, if that's important to you, that's
I want
important
that
to
for you.
me.
So let's see how we can make that happen,
Let's
kind of a
figure that
thing.
out.
Because there's always a way to make things happen that work out for everybody, for the most part. But on a basic level, I don't think it's somehow sinful or wrong
Right.
to move away. We had to do it. The Lord calls you to go.
Giovanni and Kelly moved
Giovanni,
away.
my son and his wife,
Now, that
moved to
was
Nashville.
Feeling that was a sense of the Lord leading them there for this
Right,
season.
but in our family, honestly, if the Lord's not telling you no, then you can go. But for us, typically the Lord calls us to go, speaks to us to go to different places. Otherwise, I think we would be happy where we're at.
Yeah.
But when your time is up in a certain place, and you know that in your spirit, and you know that you look around and you're seeing that and feeling this, we're done. Our time here is over. Even if it's been for a short amount of time. After we got married, we were in Napa, California in ministry there for 18 months?
Almost 2 years. Yeah.
Almost 2 years. And then we moved back to Missouri. And I was like, what was that about? But we learned so much in that very short period of time.
Yeah.
So God always has a plan for your life. And so you don't have to feel like you have to stay in one place, but you can also be comfortable in one place. Yeah. For us, we do feel like the Lord tells us where to go and when to go. But that's not how it is for everybody. So the important thing, the principles, what the Word of God tells us to do when it comes to this type of question is make sure to be Christ-like, check in with your spouse, and if you're both in agreement, then you as the head of your family will take care of them and move them in this journey in a responsible, caring, loving, safe way. You know? Oh, jeez, Cosmo.
The more you know.
Okay.
All right. Oops.
We're good.
Ooh. I think that is two good questions.
Yep.
And
long.
That's it. All right. Well, hey, happy hydration weekend, and
stay hydrated.
Stay hydrated, and may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make His face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up His countenance upon you and give you peace. Shalom, shalom. Have a beautiful day.